Hello, guys. Can you hear me? Oh, God. Check again. Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay, guys. Okay. Okay, guys. That was just a joke to start the morning nicely. And I was waiting for everyone. That's why. No, guys, sorry. Because my computer, sometimes I use different settings for work. And I never remember which settings I have to use because I use different headphones. Okay, guys. So since everyone can hear me now, first of all, I would like to thank everyone for the patience. Thank you very much, guys. So it's so nice to see everyone here. Good morning to all. And so, in order to start, we're gonna do our initial prayer. But it's so nice to see very many familiar faces. Thanks for being here again, guys. So for those who feel comfortable, I'm gonna ask you guys to close your eyes. Take a deep breath. We're gonna be asking support and guidance for the spirits of the Spirit Society of Ireland, for our Master Jesus and the good spirits, in order to give a quick explanation about certain points about the Spiritism teachings. We hope that this speech may be fruitful to us. So I would like to ask each one of us to try to open our hearts and our minds in order to understand, to listen to these points, and perhaps to comprehend. Thank God, and so be it. Okay, guys. So I'm gonna share my screen here right now. Sometimes. So, guys, I'm really sorry again for my initial trouble, but we are done. Okay, let me see here. So, guys, today we're gonna be talking about sexual energy. And the sexual energy, for some, if you go in the middle of our friends who are more spiritualists, for example, or in the Asian side, they have a different points of view of what sexual energy is, but a lot of them they're quite similar. But today we're going to be concentrating ourselves in the Spiritism teachings, using the works of Kardec, André Luiz, and Emmanuel. But first, before we talk about sexual energy, I would like to ask, uh, what's the goal of sex? I left here a few points, but if anyone wants to point out here any other point which perhaps I missed, please write down. But for some, the goal of sex is to have pleasure, which there is no problem about that. We're gonna be explaining through what the Spirit says about pleasure related to sex. For some, it's only reproduction, which is okay. Again, we're gonna try to explain. For some, it's to love someone, is to unite with someone. For some, as the picture which I have here shows quite nicely, I believe, is a exchange of energies. Okay, and here, as you can see, this picture has the lotus flower in the middle, so it's a more spiritualistic and Asian style, but I'd say it represents quite well the energy exchange. For some, it's distraction. Okay, for some, it's a way of relieving stress. Here, guys, I'm not gonna go through certain aspects today because I think we have plenty to talk regarding to much. I'm gonna be pointing out a little bit, but about obsession regarding to sex, masturbation, or things like this, or if it's good or if it's bad. That's not really the point here. We are not here to judge. And believe me, guys, when I was doing my researches, it's a massive topic. At least 3 or 4 books of André Luiz talks about these topics, and many other authors talks about the same. Okay, so but before we start talking about sex, in the Spirit's book, we have from question 200 and 202, we have a very quick explanation saying to us that the spirits, they don't have gender. Okay, they don't have gender. So once someone is in the spiritual world, they are not a man or a woman. They are not a female or male. Okay, the spirits, they can animate both male and female bodies, but that will depend on the purpose. We will see. Because when I say that will depend on the purpose, we have to understand that uh, all all of us in this stage that we are, for sure, we have experienced before in previous incarnations to be reincarnated as a man or as a woman, and most of us to don't even to say, actually all of us, according to Emmanuel, all of us, we had disturbs regarding to sex. Many of us, we still are having these disturbs nowadays, but sometimes you see someone and you judge that person, but be aware that for sure you had these disturbs in the past. Emmanuel explains to us that's something quite normal because we are developing still our way of dealing with sex. But we're going to go through a bit more on that. And also that the spirits are indifferent about which gender they have to reincarnate. Why are they indifferent? Because a spirit may choose to reincarnate as a woman or as a man according to the trials which it must undergo. For example, if I was a man in a previous life, and I used to create several wars, I used to use a lot of force, you know, I used to use a lot of power in order to achieve, to get what I wanted. The spirits explains to us. Just 1 second, guys. Oh God, why did I touch this? So the spirits explains to us that what we're gonna be choosing to be our next gender in the next reincarnation will be according to what you have to achieve. So if I was a woman in the previous life, and let's say I had children, and by any chance I wasn't really able to be a good mother, perhaps I'm going to still be want to reincarnate as a woman to experience motherhood again. So the gender which the spirit they choose to reincarnate, it will depend on the trials. But here, Emmanuel and Luis explains to us quite clear that, of course, as we know from the Spirit's book, um, certain aspects of our next reincarnation, they will only we're gonna only be able to choose that aspect depending upon our evolution, moral and knowledgeable evolution. So depends on the moral of the spirit in this case much more. He may choose certain aspects. So if I'm a spirit who has a certain moral level, I reached, I passed through several incarnations and I learned several things, I may choose to reincarnate as a man, as a woman, but as I said again, always depend on the trial. And also, once you see spiritist movies, for example, the movie of Chico Xavier, when you see the movie of André Luiz No Solar, our Astral City, or even when you see movies such as Ghost, the one with Michael, what's the name of the actor who committed suicide? I forgot. When you see movies which they are spiritualists, for example, or they show some aspect of the spiritual life, these movies they always show a man or a woman. And Andre Luiz and Emmanuel explains to us that depending on the level of moral which that spirit has, once they appear to humans, I mean people who are reincarnated, they can choose a female or a male form. That form will be based upon their choices and their preference. Let's take the example of Joana de Angelis, for example. The reincarnations that we know from Joana de Angelis starts in the times of Jesus, when she was Joana de Cusa, and she was burned at the stake. From Divaldo Franco, from what we know, that's the only reincarnations that we know from her. From there to until she becomes Joana in De La Cruz, in Mexico, then in Brazil, in Bahia, and several incarnations, Clara of Assisi. So Joana, the spirit of Joana, she identifies herself with the female aspect. So in the previous incarnation of her, we cannot say, but for sure, using the spiritist principles, probably she reincarnated as a man. But after she got some kind of evolutionary moral, she started to choose the same for Emmanuel. All reincarnations that we know as from Emmanuel, they start not as a Publio Lentulus, the senator, but as he was his grandfather. It says in the beginning of the book. So our incarnation that we know about Emmanuel, he was male, but for sure he was a female before, and he learned already certain aspects. So he prefers to use the male uh, appearance once he appears to reincarnate people who are reincarnated. Okay, so let me see if there's anyone here. Okay, André Luiz in the book Action and Reaction, he says to us that sexual energy is a creative impulse and a mental substance. When André Luiz says to us, he says that it's a creative impulse and a mental substance. Even once we think about mental, we think about the brain, the physical aspect of it. But André Luiz describes to us that actually that's from the spirit. So the creative impulse and the mental substance, which André Luiz is talking about, belongs to the spirit. The brain itself is just a tool which spirituality uses for us to use our wishes and our will and our impulses as a being. So here, as Kardec explains to us, that in the entire universe, the intelligent principle is the spirit. So we must agree, if you are a spiritist and if you believe in the codification of Kardec, that the intelligence of the being itself is not in the brain, in the physical, but in the spirit, and the brain is just a tool. That's why he mentions a mental substance. And he goes further. He says to us, sex is a valuable energy of the soul, with which it works upon nature, in which it develops, perfecting itself. So André Luiz explains to us in several books of him that sex, when we talk about sex here, we are talking about this exchange of energy, exchange of beings. You can apply that to animals also, or to the plants kingdom, when you have this kind of fusion, when you need a female and a male component to create something. But here, André Luiz is talking more about us, human beings, okay? So he's explained to us here that sex is this energy which keeps changing, and it works upon nature. And when he means nature here, he means us. Nature, he means us as with our physical body, but it keep developing itself. So why I'm saying this? Because André Luiz explains to us that in higher evolved planets or higher evolved places where we still have sex as a way of reproduction and also as a way of pleasure, because Spiritism does not condemn pleasure. Spiritism not even condemn, but the Spiritism alerts the excess of pleasure. But we will see about this. So let's say, imagine if Earth, we are now going to the world of transition, okay? Where we're gonna be we are changing our path in the evolution. But let's say if Earth was a happy world, as Kardec explains to us in the scale of the words in the Spirit's book. In happy worlds where we still have the necessity to reincarnate in physical bodies, the spirits, they perceive and they understand sex in a much different way that we do now. They perceive sex, they respect much more their partner. They perceive sex as an action of love, as an exchange of energy, not the way that not we, but I'd say most of us, to be really honest, we still perceiving as a way of only having pleasure for ourselves. I don't know how to translate this, but the Greeks, they used to say that this kind of love is called porneia. Pornea, I'm not sure how it's say in English, but porneia or pornea, that's the word pornography comes from, which is a kind of love that it's only for myself. So I only use the sexual action to have a pleasure for myself. I don't care about my partner. I don't care about love. I don't care about anything. I just want to satisfy myself. So André Luiz explains to us that in evolved worlds, this kind of thoughts, they do not exist anymore. So there, the beings who are living there, they learned as we have learned. You see an example. Of course, we see nowadays a lot of pornography around the world. I'm not trying to condemn here pornography, condemn who watches pornography. That's not the case. Believe me. I'm always saying Spiritism tries to alert regarding to the excess, not to the usage of something. If you smoke, if you drink, whatever, we are not here to judge. Anything that someone may do it, or even gossiping. People, they think about sex, drugs, alcohol as a vices, but there is many other vices that we have in ourselves, and we still don't understand that yet, such as to be gossiping, to be talking bad about other people. So we are not talking about these vices here only. But André Luiz explains to us that in terms of sex, for example, before in the past, we used to be much more animalized. So we used to be much more only thinking about ourselves 100%. Let me give an example, okay? Imagine if you were a Roman soldier and if you are there, come with your troops in a different country. Let's say in France, where it used to be called Gaul, Gaul, yeah, where when the Romans they came there, they raped everyone, they destroyed everyone. I'm not trying to condemn the Romans, but believe me, not only them, any kind of army which invaded a different nation, a different country, a different place where religion, traditions, skin color, language was different than then, in general, you should conquer. And they conquer with force, which again, it's also sexual energy. That's something that you have to understand also, but we're gonna go through in the next slide. So in that time, we used to use sex to hurt each other, to hurt others. Now people they still doing that nowadays. But once you hear someone who raped someone, nowadays you get scared. We think we get shocked. We don't really think that's correct. But 2,000 years ago, guys, 3,000 years ago was okay because everything was done by force. That's why André Luiz says to us that this energy, of the soul keeps changing, perfecting itself. So we are perfecting the usage of sex. Okay, guys, if you have any questions, guys, please write here. I'm gonna try to my best to answer, because it's, for me, it's a difficult topic. But still, if you guys have any questions, or if you guys want to make any points, please feel free. So here, in the Spirit's book, let me just see. Yeah. So in the Spirit's book, we have a question 60, which says, the law of attraction unites all the elements of matter in organic and inorganic bodies. So the law of attraction is this energy which unite. One André Luiz says, one Kardec, sorry, they spirits actually, in Kardec's work, they say inorganic bodies. According to the Spirit's book, these bodies, they are much more related to, let's say, to the kingdom of, to the animal kingdom, to the stones, to the atom, to the things that we don't perceive as which has vital life, such a piece of stone. You go to the sea, you find a beautiful stone. That's the kind of inorganic bodies that he's trying to say to us. And organic bodies is everything which has vital energy. And again, here I'm going to include the spirits, because perhaps we don't see the spirit in the vibration that we are. But André Luiz explains to us that the perispirits, it's a matter, is a kind of matter, but our eyes, our hands cannot perceive it. So a perispirit is an organic form of life also. And Emmanuel, in the book Sex and Life, by Chico Xavier and Emmanuel, I mean Emmanuel, who was the spirit, and Chico Xavier, who was the who psychographed or used automatic written. Emmanuel says to us, sexual energy as a resource of the law of attraction in the everlasting state of the universe is natural in life itself, generating magnetic charges in all beings in the face of creative potentialities that it has. So Emmanuel is saying to us here that the law of attraction, as the Spirit's book says to us, it's everywhere in the universe, and it's natural in life. And I mean life here, organic and inorganic bodies. And this sexual energy throws magnetic charges. Once you think about magnetic charges, sometimes we can think about the healing, which also is a way of using our sexual energy. Or if you want to go even further, we can say that once we take our hand to help someone in need, or once we take someone, once we use our hands to hurt someone, we are using energy, and we are using sexual energy, because sexual energy is this kind of energy which is regarding to our creative aspects. But what I mean creative could be for good or for bad. So it has an immense power. Sexual energy, based energy, it's the energy that we use to do things in general, to create things. And Emmanuel keeps going. In primitive beings located on the first steps of emotion and reasoning, and also creatures that if they voluntarily linger at the level of the brutes, they discharge of such energy operates inconsiderately. So what we are trying to say here is that once we are using sexual energy, okay, let's say we are reincarnating as humans, okay, we are here on Earth, and once we are using sexual energy, and this time here, Emmanuel is talking about sex, okay, from in primitive beings. From that part on, Emmanuel is talking about sex, not only about sexual energy. Basically, if you are using sex in a bad way, perhaps, Emmanuel says to us that if you keep choosing to stay using sex in a bad way, and you're gonna see what I mean by that. This energy that we are throwing, that we are using, we are generating bad energy to us, but we are throwing energy away. Again, I'm gonna go in the example of energy. That's why you see many geniuses in history who works 20 hours, 19 hours per day, and and a lot of these people, according to some historians, I'm not gonna say that's 100% true. A lot of those people, they didn't have much sex. because they were trying to use the energy, the sexual energy which they use for sex in this case, to be creative, because they understood that that was the same energy. We are not saying that sex is bad or anything like this, that we shouldn't be we should be stopping doing sex and try to create new computers, new softwares, new whatever. No, we're not talking about this. But some people, they try to use this sexual energy to do things. And strangely enough, André Luiz explains to us that a lot of people who sometimes they think they are mediums, and they feel energy. You know, some people who are all the time breaking things, all the time they are letting things fall off. They start to think, oh, maybe I have how you call azar. I'm cursed, you know. And in fact, André Luiz and Divaldo Franco explains also that that person perhaps has a lot of sexual energy, so a lot of vital fluid which works together, and that person more than likely is a medium, but it's not using that in the best way. When I mean best way, please guys, it's not about because some people they come to us and say, I'm a medium, I need a mediumship, a spirit center to put my mediumship in practice. In fact, you don't need a spirit center to put your mediumship in practice. What you need is to study mediumship. A spirit center may help, but if you study using the medium's book and the works of Kardec and the works of Chico, it's okay. But we're not talking about mediumship here today. But they explain to us that this sometimes can be mediumship. But just keep here on the subject. Emmanuel keeps saying to us, once we are using sexual energy in a bad way regarding to sex. So once you are using sex in a not really good manner, this, however, costs them distressing results to support them for a long time of fixation in less happy existence, in which life, little by little, teaches each one of us that no abuses, without causing harm to himself. So he's basically saying to us, whenever we're using sex with someone in a bad way, I'm going to try to describe a little bit what bad way in this case means. We become co-responsibles of that person, of the actions of the future actions with that person may do it. What I'm trying to say is, imagine the past, okay? Once, uh, even this life, so many of us have done that. But in the past, imagine a previous incarnation, you are a man really rich, really powerful, or a woman really powerful, really beautiful, or maybe you are a woman who is trying to use your beauty to lie to men, or a man who is using his power to lie to women, to have sex with them, so to only have your personal pleasure regarding the other. Once you're doing this, we have in several spiritist books that some people they even may commit suicide because someone says to them that but you told me that you love me, you told me that you want to stay with me, you told me that I was nice, and now you just go and have sex with someone else. You go around, you are just playing with my feelings. And we have this beautiful story, but sad, beautiful but sad story in the book Sex and Destiny by André Luiz, who talks a little bit about this, but also in the book Sex and Obsession by Divaldo Franco, by the spirit Manuel Filomeno de Miranda, which is amazing. I really recommend these two books, Sex and Destiny and the Sex and Obsession about Divaldo Franco. When people they use sex to lie to the others, to take advantage of them, then everything which happens in the next, even in that life or in the previous, on the next reincarnations, that one who harmed them becomes co-responsible. So if I kill myself because you lied to me, because you told me you love me and you want to have sex with me, and you're just playing with my feelings, and I kill myself, maybe when you take here in the Spirit's book, I think in the question, from the question 203, Kardec explains to us a little bit, but André Luiz explains even deeper that maybe you're going to be born in a family, you're going to be a father, you're going to have a daughter, and that wonderful daughter that you are having now, maybe someone, I'm not saying that's a rule, guys, please, maybe someone that you harmed in the previous life, and now you have to come as a father of her in order to really love her with the most pure love that you may have inside of your spirit. So they explain to us that these core responsibilities that we may gain with our actions, they go throughout reincarnation sometimes until we fix this. Okay, and then here in the Spirit's book, chapter 5, book 3, we have in the the law of preservation from the question 711 to 714. We have here enjoyment of earthly joys. And here in the, yeah, in the question 714, just one second, I have my tea. Kardec, basically, the spirits are saying to Kardec, those who seek enhancement of physical satisfaction in any kind of access place themselves below animals, because even animals stop at the satisfaction to their need. So here, this Kardec didn't really ask much about sex, but in the question 714, he asked about pleasures in general, human pleasures. And here we can have 714, yeah. So we can say here, that we can add sex in this kind of in this category also. So he's explained to us that even animals, once they do sex, for example, or once they are having their pleasures, they feel satisfied, and that's it. But we human beings, we tend to get addicted to it, and we do more and more and more and more. Again, I'm not going to be judging, but just as a matter of just to make it more visible to us, there is a series on Netflix about a guy called whatever Epstein, John Epstein. I don't remember his name in full, but I know his surname is Epstein. He's a billionaire who abused hundreds of girls. So in his case, he went over satisfaction. I'm not judging him, guys. Please don't get me wrong. I'm just using his examples to illustrate. But also in the book Sex and Obsession of Divaldo Franco, we have a very similar case. Okay? But keep going. They abdicate the reason given to them by God for their guidance, and greater their excess, more power they give to their animal nature over their spiritual nature. So what the spirits are saying to us, once we go in over the excess of pleasure, again, if you can see that the spirits, they are not condemning any kind of pleasure, guys, any kind of pleasure here. They are condemning the excess, especially in this case, because we reach animality and we forget about our spiritual nature or even our moral nature. Once you are in this level, okay, maybe you are really going to the wrong direction. And he keeps saying, diseases, illness, and death itself are the consequence of excess. They also serve as atonements for transgressing spiritual laws. Here, guys, we have a very, very simple example. André Luiz, again, in the book Nosso Lar or Astral City. When André Luiz passes away, in the movie, it doesn't say properly, but André Luiz had problems with syphilis, for example. André Luiz used to have many, many women outside of his marriage. So once he passes away, it wasn't only regarding to something about the stomach, I think they say in the movie, but it was because of the excess that he did regarding to alcohol in his case, and a lot of sex. Again, we are not saying that's bad, but the excess of it is bad. I know I'm repeating myself, but some people, they may come here to us, Spiritism condemns sex, Spiritism condemns alcohol. No, we don't condemn anything. Spiritism or spiritists like myself, we don't condemn anything. You do whatever you want to do with your life, and that we're gonna see further on. But what Spiritism is teaching to us, that this excess, once we are in excess, we are transgressing spiritual laws. Okay, let me see. Okay, we're gonna go here. Here we have a beautiful part where Emmanuel says to us in the book Sex and Life again. he talks about sex. The message is a bit longer. I made it shorter just to try to, again, to simplify here my point. But Emmanuel says to us, let me just check here. Okay, Emmanuel says, oh, another T. And you guys, is everything okay? Is everything good? Sound is good? Just to make sure. So Emmanuel says, no to prohibition, but education. Not imposed abstinence, but decent employment with due respect for others and yourself. Not indiscipline, but control. Not free impulse, but responsibility. In these 5 points here, that 4 points actually that Emmanuel brings to us, he's saying, so we have in some religions, and again, we are not here to judge to say which one is better, which one did correct or did wrong, but we have in our society for thousands of years the prohibition of sex, and we created dogmas regarding to sex, saying that sex is bad, that a virgin is better than a woman who had sex. We take the example of Mary. Sorry, but according to the spirit of Humberto de Campos. But even if we use science, only science here, and again, with all respect to all religions, but Mary, the mother of Jesus herself, she couldn't be a virgin because she had the baby Jesus. So in science, and always Kardec says to us, stays with science, science, use science, always. And once the Spiritism presents that it's wrong, go back to science. That's the words of Kardec. Okay? So in science, we have to agree 100% that there is no way of having fecundation without a man and a woman having sex. So, but we have this prohibition in the past. We have this kind of parables, these stories from the past, because they were prohibiting sex, seeing sex as something bad. But it's not bad. But the Imam emphasized to us, you must have education to use it properly. So here again, not to impose abstinence. So in several religions, we say that a priest or blah 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 cannot get married, cannot have sex. But once you take the first pope of the Catholic Church, and again, please forgive me, not trying to judge, but I'm using historical facts. Peter, the apostle himself, he was a father. I think he had 1 or 2 girls. So Peter was married. And many great spirits of history, they were married. Most of the apostles, maybe not most, but at least 5 of them, they were married. So how come Peter, the first pope of the Catholic Church, he would have to have abstinence of sex? No, he didn't have abstinence. He had sexual relations because he was married. So we cannot impose this abstinence, because once we do this, we create problems. We create people who want to have sex, but they think that they shouldn't, and they start to doing that even sometimes in a really bad way. We are talking about pedophilia, for example, when you're talking about people who abuse children, and that's we have a really nice way which Edvaldo explains to us in the book Sex and Obsession, talking about this. But so this abstinence imposed, if you don't want to do sex, that's fine, but as long as no one is imposing to you. But as he says here, we have to employ decently to ourselves and the others. Okay, not to indiscipline but control. Here it's quite simple. With nowadays with internet and pornography, we have this idea that especially men, unfortunately, they think that they can have millions of partners, and they go online and they see millions of girls and they go crazy, and they start to find that in real life. Once they don't find that in real life, in a lot of cases, they start to get depression, they start to have problems, even regarding to sexual dysfunctions. Okay, so Emmanuel says to us, do not use sex with indiscipline, but control yourself. And control here, Emmanuel is not saying to us that we have to only to have sex before marriage or anything like this, or we just have to be like this thinking about sex. Divaldo Franco say a beautiful phrase that a couple who can be married or who are not married. And guys, by the way, when I mean a couple, I'm not talking about man and woman. Could be man and man, women and women. Here, for us, a couple is two people who love each other. Doesn't matter of their gender. Spiritism will not condemn homosexuality in any kind of way. Spiritism respect, and we will see that in a few slides. So here, a couple, okay? Doesn't matter what they do, as long as they love each other, they are acting, once they are with each other doing that only for them. Divaldo Franco says that that couple who may have 10 3 or 4 times sex a day, because sometimes they have this a lot of energy, and the only way which they find is to doing sex. But again, we are talking about sexual energy. But if that couple is not aware of that sexual energy, which is the energy of creation, maybe they have sex to use it. Okay, so once you are doing this, Divaldo explains to us that a couple who is acting like this, they are acting almost like if they were acting castidity. So if you have multiple times sex with your partner, man or woman, doesn't matter, but you love each other and you act with responsibility like them, for the eyes of the spirits, that's wonderful. So they don't care about which gender you are, or if you like too much sex or not. Okay, what they condemn again is the excess. The application of sex in the light of love and life is a matter pertinent to the conscience of each one of us. In this case here, let me even type it here. Each one of us. Each one of us. Sorry. So it's what he's trying to say basically. What we do for sexuality, as long as you're not hurting anyone, as long as you're not lying to anyone, if you are having sex with someone that you like, that you care, maybe you don't love that person yet, because maybe you're just going out with that person, but you care of that person. You're not lying to that person. You're not trying to be smart with that person. As long as you are doing this, it's fine. But it's only a matter of us. It's a matter of our own conscience. So no one, even if you are doing that in the wrong way, still, because we're all going to learn, it's a matter of our conscience only. So no one can judge us. And we're going to see that here. Okay. André Luiz, in the book called Green Light, Message 45, Towards Sex, he gives this beautiful message. Do not try to standardize the affective needs of others by their effective needs. Because although love is a uniform and sublime light in everyone, the understanding and position of love rank in thousands of ways in the evolutionary path. Here, to me, to be honest, André Luiz is talking about homosexuality. So doesn't matter if you like men or if you like women. Doesn't matter. There is no way, or there is no reason for us to condemn, as long as you are using this relation with love or with care, you are okay. That's why he says the position of love ranking in thousands of ways of the evolutionary path. Because sometimes we're gonna see that in the Spirit's book. Also, we are born as a homosexual, or as doesn't matter. And guys, also, if I'm using a wrong term here, guys, please forgive me. Our friends from the LGBTS community, please forgive me if I'm using any wrong term here. It's not the intention at all. But if you sometimes someone asks, why did I born as a homosexual or whatever, we're not trying to we're not going to explain here using the Spiritism teachings today, but it says that there is thousands of ways to exercise good sexuality, with love. Okay. Okay, I have a question here before I go. Camila, let me say here. How can I? Okay. Before I go further, Camila is asking us, is polygamy right or wrong according to the Spiritism teachings? Okay. Again, Camila, I don't think we can say it's wrong or it's right. But what can say is this. If we are still in, what we can say is this. If you are still in that level, man or woman, doesn't matter which kind of gender you choose to have sex with. Let's say, I'm going to give an example, okay? Just to simplify. If I am a man and I still enjoy too much sex, if I go out, if I meet someone and I don't like that person, I go to a pub and say, hey, you are nice, but you really feel that that person is nice, you have a really nice chat with that person, and maybe you have sex. Is that wrong? I wouldn't say it's wrong, but again, maybe it's not the most health thing, because you don't know that person well, But let's say if you went out with that person several times and you have sex with that person, but you never lied, you always were open with that person. And then you do this, but maybe realize that you didn't like that person and you go for another person and you keep going like this. If you have multiple partners trying to find someone, I don't see that as a polygamy. I see the way that you are saying polygamy here, that if you are someone in a relationship and instead of having just one partner, you have plenty of partners. I don't think Spiritism would condemn, but for sure, according to the Spirit's book, we can say that monogamy is a way which perhaps for our evolution is better. Why it's better? Because we learn how to put our love and our care, our feelings to one person, and we try to respect that person, as much as we can. Of course, polygamy, someone can say, but I go out with 10 people, I love 10 people. And then you're going to have to be judging yourself. You really love that 10 people. But we cannot say that's wrong or bad. But for sure, normally, in case of polygamy, this kind of people, there is an expression that people say for polygamy nowadays. I forgot the expression. I wouldn't say it's really the most healthy way for the spirit, but perhaps if you're someone who is doing that and you are not lying to anyone, you are open to that person, I'd say you are acting better. I don't know if my explanation was good or bad, but I'm not here to say what is wrong and what's bad. And the Spiritism again does not condemn anyone. What Spiritism condemn is the action. If I'm someone who I'm polygamic, okay, but I'm lying to 10 people. So I'm married, let's say, with someone, or I'm married, no, I have a relationship with someone, and I have 10 other people, and I'm lying to them, then that's bad. Roberta is saying here, in our, okay, in our online study group, we studied the question 698, Spirit's book, 2 weeks ago, and saying that polygamy is not an advanced way of relationship. As far as society progresses, polygamy stay behind. That's what we're trying to say. We are not saying it's wrong, but the Spirit's book says to us, it's not really the best way to experience sexuality. But who am I to say to someone who enjoys polygamic relationships that it's wrong? That's why I'm trying to take this position here, okay? But the same thing once you think about marriage. In the Spirit's book, in the same chapter, if I'm not mistaken, Roberta, I think Kardec asks here, Kardec's talking about polygamy in the question 700, 701. But Kardec explains to us the same thing about marriage itself. That without marriage, without a proper relationship, society would be doomed to fail. Why? Because then we would only expose our animal instincts, perhaps our sexual instincts, in a way that we don't really care. So that's why a monogamic relationship and a marriage, for example, or an open relationship, doesn't matter the name that you give, it's healthier to us in general, because we learn how to put our love, care to one person only. Does that make sense, guys? I hope that does, but if you guys have any more questions, guys, please ask me. Okay, so here we have in 7, I don't know if you can see, but okay, let's keep going here. Okay, so here, as it says here, it has 1,000 ways, but here we have a really nice saying of André Luiz again, when he says to us, do not want your happiness at the price of someone else's misfortune, because any imbalance of wide affection will be corrected at the expenses of tortured affection. Through reincarnation, that's what I was saying. That person who lies to someone to have sex with them, to only have their pleasure, they create this imbalance in the person and in themselves. And how are we going to be fixing that? Throughout reincarnation. That's the only way, guys. So in the previous life, I used to be, let's say, a king, or I used to be someone, robbery on the roads of somewhere. It doesn't matter what I used to be. I'm just giving an example. but I used to go and abuse many women, and not even abuse as a rape I'm talking about, but lie to them, saying that they are beautiful and blah blah blah, and saying that I'm gonna go to war and come back and marry them, you know, things like this. So we start to get karma, to use the word karma, but we can use the word debt according to in the law of action and reaction. So these debts that we have to get, we're gonna have to fix them. And what's the best way? The reincarnation. And again, what's the best way? Quite simple. I'm going to repeat myself. You're gonna be born in a family that you're gonna have to be dealing with that person as a parent, maybe as a brother or sister, or you're gonna have, you know, this kind of parents. You see, I'm gonna again I'm gonna be giving the example of André Luiz. André Luiz in the book Nosso Lar, or Our City. André Luiz asks his mom, "Where is our father? He's not here in Nosso Lar, in Astral City." And her mom says to André Luiz, your father is in the lower zones. But why is he in the lower zones, basically? And the main reason which André Luiz's father was in the lower zones, or umbral, as we say in Portuguese, it's because he abused um, of his sexuality. He had his wife and two other mistresses, and that two other mistresses he used to lie, of course, to his wife first, but also to the two other mistresses, saying that he loves her, he loves them. So he used to say to one, "I love you. I'm gonna leave everything behind to stay with you," and say to the other mistress, and saying to his wife that he never really cheated on her and things like this. And then André Luiz explained how God is merciful. Instead of condemning Luiz's father, what did he do? He goes to us and he goes to André Luiz's father and puts André Luiz's father should be the father of that that two mistresses that he had in the previous life. Why? For him to understand how to love them properly. And that's how spirituality works with us. They do not condemn us, they do not throw us in hell or such thing like this. They said, okay, you made a mistake here, I'm gonna put that person that you make a mistake to be born with you. Now you gotta love her as a father. So imagine that two little girls growing up, 15, 16 years old, with their body growing, and guys start to walk around them. How mad André Luiz's father was, with a lot of jealousy, inside of his heart. But that time he couldn't do anything, or at least he shouldn't, because he was her father. Okay, let me see here. We have a comment. Tanya says to us. Let me see here. Tanya gives to us thanks. Always Tanya. I really like Tanya because Tanya enlightens us technically, which I really like. The question 701, the Spirit's book, is polygamy or monogamy more in compliance with the laws of nature? Polygamy is a human invention, a rejection of which marks in an era of social progress. God intended that marriage should be based on the existence of true affection between the individuals who enter into it. In polygamy, there is only sensuality, but no affection. If polygamy were consistent with the laws of nature, it would be possible to institute. No, no. If the laws of nature, it would be possible to institute it everywhere. However, it would be physically impossible. Here, I have here, Tanya, just 1 second. I'm gonna get in the question. Impossible. But again, and here in the end, he says to us, so that again, in the end of the question, he says to us that God only condemns our spiritual, spirits just condemn the abuse of it. So Tanya is 100% right. As we said here, monogamy is a better way for society, for everyone, for the progression of the spirit. Okay, guys? So, but in the second part here of the slide which I was reading, and thank you guys for the questions. Thank you, Tanya, for pointing me out this. I really appreciate, guys. Really, really appreciate. But André Luiz keeps going. If someone has made a mistake in their sexual experience, consult your own conscience and see if you would not have made the same mistake if you had the same opportunity, if you had the opportunity. What André Luiz is saying to us here, we go and we see nowadays someone who has problems with their sexuality, or here as we are talking, and we go there and point fingers to that person. Oh, he does this, he does that, and blah, blah, blah. But he's quite clear to us. You know, we should consult our conscience. Maybe if I was in the same position, maybe I would have done the same. As here, Emmanuel says to us, the application of sex in the light of love and life is a matter pertinent to the conscience of each one of us. So he says to us basically, what we do with your sexuality doesn't matter what you like, what you dislike, is up to you. Of course, try to use in the best way possible. As we are talking about polygamy and monogamy, try to use in the best way, in a more humane way, in a more careful way. Uh, if you are with someone having a relationship, you know, try to care about that person. Not only think about their physical body or about your own pleasure. Try to think a bit above of that. Because if you just think about this, we go back to the animality. And Andre Luis, his books, he explains that quite well, you know. But also here, he brings that sense to us that we shouldn't judge the others. Now we are talking about sex, but could be about any other mistake. Could be perhaps with material possessions, you know, with money and wealth and things like this. We judge someone who is acting badly with money, or we judge someone who is still quite violent and things like this. And he's saying to us, if you were in the same position, maybe you would have done the same. And so many times, guys, once you go back to sex, we have made the same mistakes, guys. Do not think that anyone who is watching here this speech today, that you do not really fit, you know, um, in this slide which I'm bringing here. Do not think that you are above that. Maybe you are now because you learned it. But André Luiz in the book Section and Destiny, the mentor called Felix, who is the mentor who helps André Luiz, who helps a family, you know, in the entire book. I'm not going to say the end of the book. Should I say? No, I'm not going to say. But we understand that Felix himself, a mentor, a really evolved spirit, he before was the one who was causing a lot of trouble to many people of one family regarding to the matters of sex, and he was an evolved spirit. Emmanuel says the same to us, that we shouldn't really judge what the others are doing, because Emmanuel says to us, and Chico Xavier said also, in the matter of sex, we are still learning, entire humanity. Some people are better, some people are worse, and we're still learning, and we're gonna still be born, maybe different genders, you know, maybe as a homosexual, it doesn't matter. And what's the main purpose of this? When we are talking about keep coming back with different genders, different kinds of sexuality or whatever in the reincarnation, is to progress ourselves. Sex is for that. It's not only for pleasure, procreation. Of course, it's for all these kind of things, as we were saying here in the beginning. Okay? But sex, guys, it's a tool which we have in our level of evolution to progress, and to progress with distance and not hurting the others. Here, for those who are interested in André Luiz books, you know, the books which I used the most in these two were Evolution in Two Words and Sex and Destiny. But as I said, there is a beautiful book of Divaldo Franco called Sex and an Obsession, which is amazing, by the spirit Manuel Filomeno de Miranda. So these books here, guys, can give a nice sense of the sexuality. You know, I would say that these books, they explain even further of what the Spiritist book explains, because it broadens up, it says. And André Luiz, as a doctor, he brings to us what obsession regarding to sex can cause to a human being. Okay, let me just see here. I'm going to remove this. Okay, guys. So today I try to take a different approach. If you guys can give me any feedback, you know, because I try to be much more technical, but which is quite hard for me because I'm a very emotional person, and I tend to go a lot to the gospel of Jesus, which for me touches my heart 100%. But today I want to like to explore a thing that we are seeing nowadays quite a lot, you know, with pornography, with people, you know, abusing sexuality in many different ways, with that series that you can see on Netflix about this guy Epstein, whatever. So Divaldo Franco explains to us that we are now passing in this time of transition, the hardest time regarding sexuality, because all the spirits which were in the lower zones, they are left, they are given the chance to reincarnate again, and a lot of these spirits, they have problems with sex, and they bring these problems to earth to kind of to not contaminate is the wrong word, but to spread to people who have this kind of same vibration. Givaldo Franco talk about the Marquis of Sade. I'm not sure how to say that, in English. Marquis of Sade, that spirit reincarnated, and in the spiritual world, he has a legion of spirits who are lost about sex. And if you see the books of André Luiz and Givaldo Franco regarding to this, we see what an obsession regarding to sex can cause to the spirit. Okay, guys. So thank you, guys. I'm glad to hear that Samantha, Juliana, they liked it, and I'm glad that everyone is here today, guys. So just to don't forget, guys, we have in our speeches, our lives on Facebook every Sunday at 11:15, every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:15. And we have been getting many questions regarding if we're gonna have the spirit studies, as we used to have before. So for those who are interested in have to join the spirit studies, guys, please send an email to this and put in the title Spiritism Studies or something like this. And Neide, she will reply. Neide and Tanya, they're going to reply to you. They are the ones who are looking after the study, which is on Wednesdays at 8 o'clock. Yeah, at 8 o'clock. It's written here, of course, it's at 8 o'clock. So guys, please send a message to them beforehand. They will explain how it works. It's done by Zoom. We are not having that on live on Facebook because it's a study. So on Zoom, it's a little bit better. Okay. And also, guys, a lot of people are asking us on Facebook when we're gonna be back to the Lantern Center, and I replied to several people, guys, already. But guys, let's explain something here. It's not up to us. We know that regarding to the COVID-19, um, some restrictions they have been eased nowadays. So we see that some church, the church where I live here beside in Bluebell, it's open already, but there are restrictions. The main reason that we're not open ourselves because the place that we are in the Lantern Center is quite small, so we're gonna have to have social distance. So we don't have space to have social distance. Therefore, 15 people. So it doesn't really work for us to do it. And also in the Lantern Center, perhaps some people they don't know, there is plenty of elderly people because the people who lives above, if I'm not mistaken, they're related to the Catholic Church. They used to be priests and nuns. So it's a place where there is a high volume of people in the high level of risk of contamination regarding to COVID-19. So guys, basically trying to say, until further notice, we don't know when we're gonna be back to have our activities, in the Lantern Center or in any other place. We don't know yet. Perhaps that's not gonna happen until November or even until December. We don't know, guys. We cannot say anything. So please, guys, forgive us. It's not up to us. If we could, you guys can be sure we would be there tomorrow to have our tomorrow, Tuesday, and Sundays to have our study and our speech because we are missing you guys. We are missing to have this human touch with you guys. But thank God we have Facebook and YouTube where we can have our lives. So guys, please forgive us. It's not up to us. Okay, guys. So we're gonna do our final prayer, guys. So thank you very much for everyone who was here. For those who feel comfortable, I would like to ask you guys to close your eyes, to take a deep breath. We would like to thank for the opportunity that we have here to be talking and spread the Spiritism in Ireland for our fellow Irish friends, for our Brazilian friends, Polish friends, Italian friends, and any nation who is watching us. Everyone is more than welcome here in Spiritism. Doesn't matter which country they come from, gender, color, doesn't matter. We are open to each one who wants to learn more about the gospel of Jesus and about Spiritism. But today I would like to ask, not for those who suffered abuse, not for those who suffered pain, but for those who caused pain in the others. Because sometimes we tend to only ask for those who suffer, but those who acted wrong, who perhaps lost their mind and did something that for sure it's wrong and we condemn in society. But let's not forget that even the worst criminal, even the worst abuser, rapist, doesn't matter, is our brother also. For sure, he deserves the human law, but also the love of God. So let's pray for those who commit certain crimes and mistakes in order for them to realize what they have done. So in the future, they can improve as we have done. And let's not forget that perhaps they are doing this, but in the past, it could be us. In the past, probably we did the same. So let's not forget to pray for them to find reason, and that may the love of Jesus and the good spirits reach their hearts in order to them to realize what they have done and search for the good path and the good way, the good path and way of redemption. Thank God, and so be it. Okay, guys, thank you very much for everyone. I hope everyone will have a nice Sunday. I hope to have many mails, but if you guys want, of course, but I hope that you have many mails asking us about the study. It's nice to see more people there or in our lives. And thank guys. God bless you all. All the best. Bye bye.